Okay, greetings one and all, and welcome to this math video. In this math video, we will be considering paper 2. Yes, paper 2, BJC Mathematics past paper, and this is from 2010. So we'll be considering a 2010 BJC paper 2 Mathematics past paper. And so let's begin. Let's consider the first question. Here we have 9,000 plus 300 plus 10 plus 2. And it is definitely an addition problem. So we have to add these numbers. And so let's add them. Let's begin with the tens column. We have 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 2. That's 2. Tens column, we have 0 plus 0 plus 1. And that's 1. And hundreds column, we have 0 plus 3. That's still 3. And then for the thousands column, we have 9 plus 0, which is still 9. And so the answer for this question is 9,312. Now let's move on to question number 2. It says circle all the numbers from the list below that would make this statement true. And so here we have b is greater than or equal to 4. And so we have a -4, 8, and 10. Let's begin with -4. So the question is, does -4 satisfy this inequality, or does -4 make this inequality true? So you have -4 is greater than or equal to 4. Is that true though? Is -4 greater than 4? That's absolutely false. -4 is not greater than 4, so that's not going to work. Is -4 equal to 4? That's not true either. And so -4 cannot work. Okay, so let's try another one. How about 8? We have 8 is greater than or equal to 4. So is 8 greater than 4? Yes, 8 is greater than 4. And so that means that this inequality is satisfied. So that means 8 works. Okay, so how about 10? We have 10 is greater than or equal to 4. Okay. Is 10 greater than 4? Yes, 10 is greater than 4. And so this also works for 10. So this inequality is telling us it has to be greater than, or the number, right, b, has to be greater than or equal to 4. So 8 is greater than 4, so that could work. So it could be either greater than 4 or it could be equal to 4. Either one of those two categories. Once it falls into either one of those two categories, then it works. 8 is greater than 4 and 10 is greater than 4, so it works. And so that means the correct answer for this one is going to be, the correct answer is going to be 8 and 10. Those are going to be the correct answers. Okay, so let's move on to the next question, question number 3. Here it says collect like terms and simplify. So here we have g plus g minus d plus g. And so let's collect all like terms. Let's collect all the g's. We have one g, and another g. Let's combine them. And how about the d's? Let's combine them as well. So we have a -d and -d. Let's combine them. And so altogether we have 1g, 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 and then -d and -d. And so combine them together, we are left with 3g minus 2d. How do we get that? Well, this is 1g plus 1g plus 1g, which gives us 3g. Then we have a -1d and -1d. That's going to be -2d. And so the answer here is 3 minus 2d. Let's move on to the next question. We have number 4. It says, write the number whose prime factors are 2 to the 3rd power times 7. But what is 2 to the 3rd power? 2 to the 3rd power is just 2 times 2 times 2, which is 8. And we have to multiply that by 7. So 2 to the 3rd power times 7 is just 8 times 7, which is indeed 56. And so the correct answer here is 56. Now let's move on to the next question. Here we have, it says calculate the value of 5 times 4 plus 6 divided by 2. This is indeed an order of operations problem. So that's PEMDAS. So we have parentheses, the order of operations is as follows. Parentheses, then exponents, then multiplication or division, and then addition or subtraction. So the way how it works is that you first figure out, is there any parentheses? There are no parentheses in this question, so we don't have to do that. The next thing is, are there any exponents? No, there are no exponents in this question, so you don't have to worry about that either. But then we have multiplication and division. They are equally weighted. And so with the way how you do it is you do it from left to right. Whatever comes first from left to right, that's what you do for multiplication and division. Here, multiplication clearly comes first. We're going to multiply before we divide. But if the division came before the multiplication, we would have divided before we multiplied. But because multiplication comes first, we're going to multiply first. Then after you're done with the multiplication and division and you're done with all of that, then you can go to addition and subtraction. So our addition would be the last thing that we do. So let's move on to answering the question. So we have 5 times 4. Well, 5 times 4 is definitely 20. And we have 20 plus 6 divided by 2. We always divide before we add. So it's going to be 6 divided by 2, which is 3. And 20 plus 3 is definitely 23. And so the answer for this question is 23. Let's move on to question number 6. Here we have this question. It says move A, B, C, D 6 units to the right, and then label the new figure A1, B1, C1, and D1. And so we have to move each point over. And so we have A, or each of the 4 points. Let's do that. So we have A, let's move that 6 points over. That's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's where A1 is going to be. And then D is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 6 units over. That's where D1 is supposed to be. Now let's move C1. So now let's move C and B. So we have B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's where B1 is supposed to be. And then C is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And so now we know where A1, B1, and C1 is supposed to be. We draw line segments to connect them. And that's how we get the new image A1, B1, D1, and C1. Well, A1, B1, C1, and D1. And so this is the image in red is this image moved over 6 units to the right. And so that's the correct answer for this question. Now let's move on to 6b. Here it says they want the coordinates of D1. Well, D1 is here, is where D1 is. We know that this is 1. We know that it's 2. We know that this is 3. We know that this is 4. We know that this is 4, and we know that this one is 5. And so what that means is this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. D1 is at 3. And if we go down, and down, and down, and down, we at 1. And so our coordinates is going to be 1 for the x-axis and 3 for the y-axis. And so that's the correct answer here, 1, 3. Again, 1 for the x-axis and 3 for the y-axis. Let's move on to question number 7. It says it takes Andrea 11 minutes to walk from her house to the bus stop. She arrives at the stop 8 minutes too early for the 11:15 a.m. bus. At what time did she leave home? And so let's do that. So remember, she arrived 8 minutes too early for the 11:15 bus. So let's subtract. Let's pull away 8 minutes from that 11:15. So 15 minus 8, let's do 5 minus 8 first. 5 minus 8, we can't do that, so we must borrow from the 1. That becomes a 0. This becomes a 1. 15 minus 8 is definitely 7. And so 15 minus 8 is 7, and 0 minus 0 is 0. And so we have to go to the hour side. 1 minus 0 is 1, and 1 minus 0 is 1 again. So that's 11. So that means that she arrived at the bus stop at 11:07. In order for her to be considered, in order for her to arrive 8 minutes too early, she had to arrive at the bus stop at 11:07. Okay, next up. So we know that she arrived at the bus stop at 11:07. And so the thing is that they told us that it takes her 11 minutes to walk to her house. So she arrived at the bus stop at 11:07, but that's the time that she arrived at the bus stop. It took her 11 minutes to get to the bus stop. And so let's take away that 11 minutes to figure out what time she arrived, what time she left home. So this is going to be 11:07 minus 11 minutes. If we try to subtract, if we try to do 7 minus 11, that's not going to work. So, well, no, 7 minus 1 is right. That could work. But 0 minus 1, that cannot work. Let me repeat that. 7 minus 1 could work, but 0 minus 1, that can't work. So we must borrow. And remember, we're borrowing a whole hour. So that's going to be 11 minus 1, which is 10. And so we have to borrow that and send it over to the minute side. Remember, we're borrowing a whole hour and we putting that into the minute side. So that's going to be 60 minutes because 1 hour is 60 minutes. So again, we borrowing a whole hour. We can't just put 1 on top of the 0. We have to put 60 because we borrowed a whole hour and 1 hour is 60 minutes. And so that means that this question, if we rewrite it, it's going to be 10 hours and 60 plus 7, that's going to be 67 minutes. And then we do some subtraction. We have 67 minus 11. Well, 7 minus 1, that's 6. And 6 minus 1 is 5. And then 10 minus 0 is just 10. And so that means that the time that she left home would be 10:56, which makes sense because if she left home at 10:56, then it takes her 11 minutes to get to the bus stop. That means that she would arrive at the bus stop at 11:07, which means that she would arrive exactly 8 minutes too early for the 11:15 bus. Okay, let's move on to question number 8. It says, Mr. Black bought a television set for $450. He later sold the television at a loss of 30%. And they want us to calculate the amount of the loss. Now, since he sold it at a loss, we know that he sold it for less than he paid for. So what is the amount of the loss though? Well, the amount of the loss we know is 30% of 450. And we know that of means multiply. And so 30% multiplied by 450, that's what we have to calculate. But what is 30%? Well, 30% is just 30 over 100 multiplied by 450 over 1. We have to cancel. So this 0 goes with this 0, this 0 goes with that 0. And so we are left with this 3 over 1 multiplied by 45 over 1. And so let's multiply out 3 times 5. We have to multiply this 3 by that, not 3 times 5, 3 times 45. We have to multiply 3 by 45 and we must multiply 1 times 1. And so we have 3 times 45, which is 135, and 1 times 1, which is 1. And so the answer is going to be 135 right there. And so that's the answer, 135. That's the loss that he got. Now, at what price did Mr. Black sell the television set? Remember, he sold it at a loss of 30% or $135. So you have to take that away from the selling price, or we have to take it away from the amount that he bought it for. So let's subtract it, which is 450 minus 135. We know that 0 minus 5, we cannot do that. So we have to borrow from the 5. That's going to be 4. And that's 5 minus 1 is 4. And we put the 1 on top. 10 minus 5 is 5. 4 minus 3 is 1. And 4 minus 1 is definitely 3. And so the answer here is 315. Now let's move on to question number 9 here. This is a pictograph, and it says using this symbol to represent 4 books. So this box symbol, just like the key said, the box means 4 books. It says complete the pictograph below. So this is an incomplete pictograph. We have to complete it. It says, okay, the pupil's name. We have the pupil's name, Gabrielle, Joshua, Diana, Tiane, and Larry. And we have the number of books that some of them read. This Diane, sorry. So Gabrielle, Joshua, Diane, and Larry. So the number of books read by Gabrielle is 12 books. Joshua read 4 books. Diane, we don't know how much books she read. We just have the picture. And Larry, he read 6 books. So let's complete this pictograph. So if Gabrielle read 12 books, that means that she needs 3 boxes because this is going to be 4, then 8, then 12. And if Joshua read 4 books, that means that he need 1 box because it's only, it's only 1 book it's only 4 books that he read. So it's going to be 1 box, and 1 box represents 4 books. Diane, she read, how much books she read? Well, this is 4. That's going to be 8. This is going to be 12. This is going to be 16. This is going to be 20. So that means that she read 20 books. And Larry, well, Larry read 6 books. So it's going to be 4 books, which is that box and 2 more books added to that, which is a half of a box. So the half of a box means 2 books. So when you add them together, that's 6. And so that's how we're going to complete this pictograph. Now let's move on to, and please bear in mind, this is half of a box, not a complete box, because half of a box is 2 books, because 4 books is 1 full box. So half of a box is going to be 2 books. So let's move on to question number 10. Question number 10, we have, what is the size of angle A? Right? What is the size of angle A? We have angle A here. Let's consider this particular rule or this particular concept. It says vertically opposite angles. Well, we know that vertically opposite angles are angles that are opposite one another at a specific vertex. So they are what? Opposite one another at a specific vertex and are created by 2 straight intersecting lines. It's very important to note that vertically opposite angles are equal to each other. So vertically opposite angles are going to be equal to each other. And so that means that this one here, this is B, right? This is B, and this is B. They are equal. They are vertically opposite each other. They're opposite right there. And so they are equal to each other, B and B. Another vertically opposite angle that we have, 2 of them. We have A and we have A, all right? And so they are vertically opposite angles right there, all right? And so both of them are equal to each other. And so that's what we mean by vertically opposite angles. They are opposite each other and they are equal to each other. So let's look back at our example. Here we have A, and A is clearly vertically opposite to 43. And so A is going to be equal to 43. Now let's move on to question B. It says, calculate the size of angle B. Well, what we do know is that angle B and 43 are on the same line. And we know that angles that are on the same line, that angles are on a straight line at a common point are 280 degrees. So that means that angle B and 43, they must add up to 180 degrees. And so in order to find out what B is, we have to subtract. We have to take away 43 from 180 degrees, and that should give us 137. And so that means that B is equal to 137. Now let's move on to angle C. So if we look at angle C is inside a triangle. And we also have other interior angles as well. An important geometric rule to remember is that the interior angles inside a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So that means that 75 plus 43 and C must add up to 180 degrees. We already have 75 and 43, so let's add them together and then subtract it from 180 degrees to get what C is. And so again, 75 plus 43, that's 118. We subtract that from 180 to get what C is, and C is 62. So if we add 62 plus 75 plus 43, the answer is 180. So C is 62. Now let's move on to question number 11. That's mean, median, and mode. Well, sorry, this is just a median for question number 11A. This is just a median question. And so what is the median? Well, the median is the middle number. Once the numbers are arranged from least to greatest, the median is the middle number. So let's arrange these numbers from least to greatest. We have 110, 113, 114, 114, 119, and 120. And so they are arranged from least to greatest, and let's find the middle. So 110 goes with 120, 113 goes with 119, and 114, they go together. And so, since all 2 of them are in the middle, let's add them and divide by 2. So that's what we do. If there are 2 numbers in the middle, you add them and then divide them by 2. So 114 plus 114 is 228. Divided by 2, we get 114. So that means that the median tip is 114. Now let's move on to the mean. So the mean is the average. So what we have to do is we have to add up all the tips that the boys got and divide it by the number of parking boys that there are. There are 6 parking boys, and Andrew got 113, James got 120, Peter got 114, Alfred got 119, Tony got 114, and John got 110. So if we add them all together, that gives us 690, but we still have to divide it by 6. And so 690 divided by 6 is 115. And so the mean, therefore, is 115. Now let's move on to question number 12. For question number 12, it says, how many faces does the cube have? So here we have a cube, and we want to figure out like how much faces, or how many faces does this cube have? Well, we know that a cube have 6 faces. And what do we mean by 6 faces? It has 6 faces, 8 corners, and 12 edges. And so let's identify the different faces of the cube, right? So we know that the cube has 6 faces. Let's identify the different faces of this cube. Well, we know that the first one, let's consider the first one. This is the first one. The first face, right? Is this one. That's gonna be the first, that's gonna be the one on this side, okay? The one in the front. And then we also have, that's the first one, and we also have the one in the back, all right? So there's two, one in the front, one in the back. Those are two, that's 2 already, all right? One in the front, one in the back. That's 2 faces, all right? Then what else we have? We have the one that is on the top. So the one that's on the top, this one, all right? That's another face, all right? That one is on the top. That makes 3 faces, and then we have the one at the bottom. That makes 4. So we have the one at the top, we have the one at the bottom, that's 2. We have the one in the back, we have the one in the front, that's 3 and 4. And then the last 2 are gonna be the ones that are to the side. So this one right here, all right? This face right here is, this face right here is, that makes the 5th face. And then if we go here and here, that makes another face. So the ones on the side makes 6. So one in the front, one in the back, one on top, one at the bottom, and 2 at the sides. So that means that this cube has 6 faces. All right, so let's move on to question number 12b. It says calculate the area of one face of the cube. So we want to calculate the area of one face. All right, let's choose this one. Well, it is a square, and we know the area of a square is going to be length times width. The length is 8, the width is 8, so 8 centimeters times 8 centimeters is going to be 64 centimeters squared. So the answer is 64 centimeters squared. Now let's move on to the next question. Here we have question number 12BII. It says calculate the total area of all the faces. Well, we already know that the area of one face is 64 centimeters squared. And so if we multiply that by 8, because there are, well, it's not 8 faces, it's actually 6. So that's a mistake right there. It's a big mistake. So it's supposed to be 6. We have to multiply it by 6. All right. So the total area is going to be equal to 64 centimeters times 6, not 8, because there are 6 faces. So 64 times 6 is going to be 384. And so the answer here is going to be equal to 384 centimeters squared, because there are 6 faces, not 8. So I made a mistake on the slide. So it's supposed to be 384. So the answer 512 is not right. It is 384. Okay. So the answer here is 384 centimeters squared. All right, so let's move on to question number 13. Here it says, Paul deposited $1,200 in a saving account for 1 year at 6% simple interest per annum. Calculate the interest after 1 year. So here we have to use the simple interest formula, where P, that's the principal. The principal is the amount borrowed or the amount deposited. In this case, it is 1,200. Then we have the rate, that's going to be 6%. According here, and we have the time. Well, the time is 1 year because it says calculate the interest after 1 year. And so that means that P is going to be equal to 1,200. R is 6 and 1 is T. And so we have 1,200 times 6 times 1, which is going to give us 7,200. And then we have to divide it by 100, which gives us 72. And so that means that her interest after 1 year is going to be $72. But the question is, how much is she going to have in her account after 1 year, though? Remember that she still has that amount that she deposited, which was the 1,200. Now we're going to add that to the interest. And so the total amount that she should have in her account at the end of a year is 1,272. That's going to be the 1,200 plus the interest that was accumulated over that 1 year period. And so the answer is 1,272. Let's move on to question number 14. And here we have Steven. Steven bought 2 packages of hamburger meat. Each package weighed 2 and 3/4 pounds. Calculate the total weight of the meat. Now here we want total weight. Total, when you think about total, you're thinking about adding. So let's add it. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to convert all 2 of these into improper fractions. We know that 2 times 4 is 8 plus 3 is 11. So, and we keep the denominator, so it's 11/4. We do the same thing here. 2 times 3 is, 2 times 4 is 8 plus 3 is 11. And we keep the denominator. Here, 11 plus 11 is definitely 22. And we do not add the denominators, we just leave it as such. Now we have to divide 22 by 4. How many times can 22 go into 4? Well, 4 goes into 22. Sorry, not how much times 22 goes into 4. How many times 4 goes into 22? Well, 4 goes into 22 5 times because 4 times 5 is 20. We subtract 22 by 20 and we get 2. And so now 5 is going to be the whole number, 2 is going to be the numerator, and 4 is going to be the denominator. And so it's 5 and 2/4. But then we have to divide top and bottom by 2. And so we have 5 and 2 divided by 2, that's 1. And 4 divided by 2, well, that's 2. So the answer here is 5 and 1/2. And so let's move on to the next question. It says he then divided the meat into 1 1/4 or 1/4 pound hamburger patties. How many patties was he able to make? Well, we have 5 and 1/2, and we have to divide that by 1/4. And so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to change this 5 and 1/2. I'm going to change that into an improper fraction. So we have 5 and 1/2 divided by 1/4. Change that into improper fraction. How do we do that? We multiply 5 by 2 and we add 1. That's going to be 5 times 2, which is 10, plus 1 is 11/2. We divide, that's 1/4. When you're dividing, the trick is you have to change the division sign into a multiplication sign, and you have to switch over. So the 1 goes where the 4 was, and the 4 goes where the 1 was. And so it's going to be 11/2 multiplied by 4/1. 11 times 4 and 2 times 1. What is 11 times 4? Well, that's 44. And 2 times 1, well, that's 2. So 44 divided by 2 is definitely 22. And so the answer here is 22 patties. So he's able to make 22 patties. The next question is, write down, which diagram represents R intersect P? And so this one right here is definitely R intersect P, where the 2 Venn diagrams where the 2 sets overlap, where they have things in common. And so it's definitely going to be A for this question. Move right along, we have question number B. Here we have a set. In the set, we have 1, 7, 11, and 15. And they want us to list the members of the sets that are multiples of 3. The only multiple of 3 in this set is going to be 15 because 3 times 5 is 15. And so that means that for this one, it's going to be BI is 15. Let's move on to question number BII. So here we have 1, 7, 11, and 15. And they want us to list the members of the following sets that are factors of 21. Let's list the factors of 21. Factors of 21, what are the factors of 21? Okay, so the factors of 21 is going to be 1, 3, 7, and 21. And so from this set, what are the factors of 21? Well, we have 1 is a part of it, and 7. They're the only numbers that are inside the set that are also factors of 21. And so 1 and 7 is the answer for this one. Now let's move on to question BIII. We're trying to find prime numbers. But prime numbers are numbers that only have 2 factors, 1 in itself. Some prime numbers are 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, 13, 17, and so on. So the prime numbers are going to be, from the set, are going to be, prime numbers from this set is going to be definitely 7 is one, and 11 is another one. So let's move on to number 16. Here we have this graph. The graph shows Perez's journey from his house to his grandmother's. How long did Perez take to travel the first 20 miles? So they want how long? So they want time. So 20 miles is right here. So if we go down here, it took him half an hour. As you can see, half. It took him half an hour to travel the first 20 miles. Now let's move on to the next question. It says, how long did Perez stop for after traveling for 1 hour? Well, after traveling for 1 hour, he's right here. And if you notice that this is a horizontal line, which means that he stopped. How long did he stop? Notice that this is half an hour. So half an hour means 30 minutes. And each one of these lines indicates 6 minutes because this is 6, then this is 12, then this is 18, and this is 24, which brings us to 30 right here. So each one of the lines right here represents 6 minutes. And so when we come back here for the hour, we notice that he took this amount of time, and then that's 6 minutes. He took another 6 minutes, which is 6 plus 6. So we have 6 minutes plus 6 minutes, which is 12 minutes. So that means that he stopped for 12 minutes after traveling for 1 hour. Okay, let's move on to question number C, question 16C. It says, how far from his home was Perez after 1 hour? How far? That's distance. If we look carefully, after 1 hour, he was 60 miles away from his home. And so the correct answer here is going to be 60. How about D? It says, how far is it from Perez's house to his grandmother's house? Well, his grandmother's house is his destination, his final destination. Is all the way up here. It took him 90 miles to get there. And it took him an hour and a half to get there. So the distance is 90 miles. Now, how long did it take him to reach his grandmother's house? We already know that it took 90 miles. How long did it take him though? It took him an hour and a half. All right, so the answer here is an hour and a half. Now, how about the next question? The next question says, calculate the average speed for Perez's entire journey. We know the average speed is distance divided by time. We know that his distance was 90 miles. His time was 1.5 hours. But we can take 1.5 hours and change it into a improper fraction. 1 times 2 is 2, plus 1 is 3. So it's going to be 3 over 2 of an hour. So 3 over 2 hours. So the time that he took is going to be 3 over 2 hours. So what's the average speed? The average speed is distance divided by time. His distance is 90 miles. His time is an hour and a half, but we converted that hour and a half to, we converted 1 over 2 to 3 over 2, which is the same thing. We know we have 90 divided by 3 over 2, so let's do that. 90 over 1 divided by 3 over 2 is going to be equal to, again, 90 over 1 Now, because we're dividing, the rule is you're gonna change the sign from division to multiplication, and then you're gonna switch it. So you're gonna flip, so what else? So you're gonna bring 2 down and you're gonna bring 3 down and bring 2 above. So it's 9 over 1 multiplied by 2 over 3. And so it's gonna be 90 times 2. What is 90 times 2? 90 times 2 is 180. And then 1 times 3, what is 1 times 3? Well, 1 times 3 is just 3. Now we have to divide. What is 180 divided by 3? That is 60. How do we know that? Because if we actually divide it, 3 goes into 18 6 times. 3 times 6 is 18. We subtract. 18 minus 18 is 0. Bring down the 0. How many times does 3 go into 0? 3 goes into 0 0 times. And 0 minus 0 is 0. So the answer is definitely 60. So that means that he traveled 60 miles per hour. That's his average speed for the entire journey. Moving right along, let's look on to number 17. We have a printer which costs X dollars and a computer which costs 5 times as much as the printer. It says write an expression to show the cost of the computer. But the computer costs 5 times as much. And so we're going to say 5 times X because X is the printer. So that's the cost of the printer. So the cost of the computer is going to be 5 times X, which is just 5X. Number 17B, it says, what is the cost of the computer and printer together? No, it says the cost of the computer and the printer together is 1,320. Write an equation to show this information. Well, we know that the printer cost is X dollars. The computer costs 5 times that, so it's going to be 5X equals to 1,320. We can add X and 5X to give us 6X. And so that's our answer. 6X is equal to 1,320. Now let's solve this equation for X. We know that we have 6X equals to 1,320. Now we're going to divide both sides by 6. When we divide both sides by 6, the 6's cancel out, leaving us with just X is equal to 1,320 divided by 6. And then let's divide it. So let's divide 1,320 by 6. We know that 6 goes into 13 2 times. So 6 times 2 is 12. And 6 times 2 is 12. So that's going to be 13 minus 12, which is a 1. We bring down the 2. And how much times 6 goes into 12? Well, 6 goes into 12 twice. So 6 times 2 is 12. You know, 12 minus 12 is 0. How much times can 6 go into 0? Because we bring down the 0. Well, 6 goes into 0 0 times. 6 times 0 is 0. And we subtract, so the answer is going to be 220. So X is going to be equal to 220. Since X is equal to 220, we know that X is the price of the computer. Sorry, we know that X is the price of the printer. And so that means that the printer is going to cost $200. Now let's move on to the cost of the computer. Well, the computer is 5 times the cost of the printer. So it's going to be 5 times 220. And we know 5 times 220, well, 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 2, that's 10 plus, and we put the 1 above. So 5 times 0 is 0. 5 times 2 is 10. Put the 0 down, put the 1 up. 5 times 2 is 10 plus 1. That's 11. And so the answer is 1,100. That's the cost of the computer. Now let's move on to wages and salary. We have Sheila. She's paid $10 an hour for a 40-hour work week. Calculate her wages for 40-hour week. And she's paid $10 an hour. So her wages is going to be 10 multiplied by 40, because 40 is how much hours she worked and 10 is her wages. So it's going to be $40. Sorry, $400, because 10 times 40 is 400. Now, overtime is paid at double time. So calculate the amount paid for 1 hour of overtime. Remember, overtime is double time. So if she get paid 1 hour, if she get paid for one regular hour, she get paid $10. For overtime, it's double time. So it's going to be 2 times that. So it's going to be 2 times 10, which is 20. So for 1 hour of overtime, she get paid $20, which is twice her regular amount. During the week, Sheila worked 48.5 hours. How many hours of overtime did she work? Well, we know that she's supposed to work 40 hours, but she worked instead 48.5 hours. So we have to take away that 40-hour work week and subtract it so we get how much hours of overtime did she actually work. So we know that 5 minus 0 is 5, 8 minus 0 is 8, and 4 minus 4 is 0. So that means that she worked 8.5-hour overtime. But she also worked 40 hours regular. What was her overtime pay or total overtime? Well, we know that she get paid $20 for each hour of overtime that she does, but she did 8.5 of them. So it's going to be 20 times 8.5. When we multiply 5 times 0, we get 0. 5 times 2 is 10. And when we put the placeholder, when we multiply 8 times 0, that's going to be 0. 8 times 2 is 16. Add them all together. 0 plus 0 is 0. 0 plus 0 is 0. 1 plus 6 is 7. And 1 plus 0 is 1. And so that means that she is paid $170 for her overtime. And so moving right along, we want to calculate her total earnings. Well, her total earnings is going to be how much she get paid for the regular week plus the $170 overtime. And if we add that together, we get 570. So 570 is what she get for total earnings for that particular week. Now let's move on to question number 19. It says that the diagram represents a window. The diameter of the semicircle is what they want us to write down. So we have a semicircle. This right here is the diameter of the semicircle. We already know that this bottom here is 8, and that's exactly the same as the diameter. So diameter is going to be 8 meters. Now we want to figure out what is the length of the curved portion. The curved portion is this one given in red. And we want to figure out that length. In order to figure out that length, we need pi. Pi is 3.14. We also need the radius. The radius is half of the diameter. That's half of the diameter, and we know the diameter is 8, so half of 8 is 4. And so that means that the radius is 4 centimeters. Okay, 4 meters. So in order to figure out the length of the curved portion, it's going to be pi r, and pi multiplied by r. So pi is 3.14. The radius is 4 meters. We multiply them together. And what do we get? 4 times 4 is 16. Put the 6 down, put the 1 up. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5. 4 times 3 is 12. And so the answer is going to be 12.56. That's going to be the length of that curved portion, 12.56. Now we want, now the question says that a metal strip is placed around the semicircular part and the three straight edges. So they put a metal part over this circular edge. Sorry, the semicircular part. We already know that that length is 12.56 meters. The metal strip is placed across this one as well. That's 5 meters though. It's placed across this and it's placed across that. So if we want to get the total length of the metal strip needed, we have to add all of the lengths together. So that's the 12.56, that's the 5, that's the 8, that's the 5. You have to add all of them together to get the total length of the metal strip needed. If we add them all together, we know that 6 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 is just 6. 5 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0 is just 5. Don't forget your dot. 2 plus 5 plus 8 plus 5 is going to be 20. And we add them and we get 30.56. And so the total length of the metal strip needed is going to be 30.56 meters. Now let's round it. So we already know that our answer is 30.56. Let's round it to the nearest whole number. For this, we have the focus on 5. And we know that this number right here is 5. It's not less than 5, it's 5. So that means that we have to add 1. Saying that we have to add 1 to 30, our answer is 31. And that's 31 meters. That's it rounded to the nearest whole number. Okay, let's move on to number 19D. It says that the metal strip costs $12 per meter. calculate the total cost of the metal strip. Well, we already know that the total length that we're looking for is 30.56. And we know that each meter costs $12. So we just have to multiply 12 by 30.56. Let's multiply that. 2 times 6 is 12. Put the 2 down, put the 1 up. 2 times 5 is 10, plus 1 is 11. Put the 1 down, put the 1 up. 2 times 0 is 0 plus 1. It's going to be 1. And 2 times 3 is 6. So that's the first one. Don't forget your placeholder. Then we have 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 0 is 0. And 1 times 3 is 3. We add them all together. 2 plus 0 is going to be what? 2. 6 plus 1 is 7. 1 plus 5 is 6. And 6 plus 0 is 6. And 3 plus 0 is 3. And so we have $366.72. That's going to be our answer when we multiply 12 by 30.56. Now let's consider question number 20. This is a geometry construction question. We have AC. What they want us to do is they want us to construct a 90-degree angle at A. They want this line that's they want this line that we draw, this perpendicular line that we draw. They want it to be 8 centimeters, and they want us to join B to C to form a triangle. And so let's do that. So here we have AC. What we need to do is we need to, at A, we need to construct a 90-degree angle. And so we're going to get our compass, and we're going to go about halfway about this line. Halfway or a little less than halfway. We lock it in, and we're going to draw an arc. The arc must cut your line AC, and it must be like this. Okay, so now you have an arc. What you're going to do is you're going to get your compass, keep it the same length, do not change the length of the compass, and then go to right where your arc intersects with this line segment AC, and you're going to put your compass at that point. Then you're going to draw an arc again right here. All right, right where your first arc intersected. So you're going to draw another arc to intersect with your first arc that you drew. Then you're going to go to the point where those two points intersect, and then you're going to draw another arc. All right, let's get this sorted. You're going to draw another arc. Okay, let's get this right. It's not working properly. So okay, there we go. So we have to draw another arc. This arc is going to come from here, and it's going to go all the way to cut that same first arc again. Notice I did not adjust my compass size. It stays the same. Then I'm going to go where that new point is made again, and I'm going to take my compass, and I'm going to draw another arc. All right. All right, now that I've done this, I'm almost done with the constructing. What I have to ensure is that the line that I draw, it has to be 8 centimeters. And so remember the question said it has to be 8 centimeters. So we have to do that. We have to make sure that it's 8 centimeters. And so let's do that. All right, so let's go over here and make sure we have the right numbers. It has to be 8 centimeters. So we could unlock it now and make sure that this is 8 centimeters. Make sure that's 8 centimeters. All right, that's 8 centimeters. We lock that in, and then we go to our point A, and we go all the way up, and then we have to draw an arc. We have to draw an arc of 8 centimeters. Right there. All right, draw an arc of 8 centimeters. Good. Now we take our line and we draw a line directly in the middle, such that it goes through there, and it exactly cuts. And so it has to be in the middle exactly. All right, that's good. And so let's measure it. Let's see if this is 90 degrees. Well, measuring it, it is 90 degrees. Okay. And so we drew the 90-degree angle. And so we can draw right here and say this is 90 degrees. Remember that this one is also 8 centimeters in length. And we have to call that B. All right, call this B. The next thing that they want us to do is they want us to join B to C to form a triangle. So let's join that. Join B to C to form a triangle. And there we have it. We have our triangle ABC. And that's how we do this particular question. And so let's go, let's put it here. Voila. So let's move on to the next question. It says here that we want to measure and write down the length AC. So what is the length of AC? Let's go back to our diagram and let's measure it out. AC is here. And so if we look carefully and we measure it, this is 0, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 5.5, and then 5.9. So AC is actually 5.9 meters. 5.9 centimeters. And so that's the correct answer right there. AC is 5.9. And so what that means is we could actually put that on our image. All right. So 5.9. 5.9 centimeters. All right, and let's take this image instead as the completed image. And so we know what AC is, that's the base. We know what AB is, that's the height. All right, and so we have those numbers. All right, so the next thing that they want us to do is they want us to find the area of this triangle. So what is the area of any triangle? Well, the area of a triangle is going to be base times height. Like we said before, the base of this triangle is 5.9 centimeters, and the height of this triangle is 8. So it's going to be base times height divided by 2. The base is 5.9, the height is 8 centimeters. And so 8 multiplied by 5.9 is going to be 8 times 5.9, which is 8 times 9 is 72. Put the 2 down, put the 7 up. 8 times 5 is 40 plus 7. It's going to be 47. And we cannot forget the point there. And so that means that 8 times 5.9 is 47.2. We divide both sides. Sorry, we divide that number rather by 2. And what do we get when we divide by 2? Well, how much times does 2 go into 4? How much times does 2 go into 4? Yes, how many times does 2 go into 4? Well, 2 goes into 4 exactly 2 times, right? So 2 times 2 is 4. And if we subtract it, 4 minus 4 is 0. We bring down the 7. How much times does 2 go into 7? 2 goes into 7 3 times because 2 times 3 is 6. We subtract that. 7 minus 6 is 1. We bring down the 2. How much times does 2 go into 12? Well, 2 goes into 12 6 times. And that means that 2 times 6 is 12. And so we subtract it. 12 minus 12 is 0. And so the answer here is 23.6. And so that means that the area of this triangle is 23.6 centimeters squared. And so that brings us to the end of this video. Hope you found it helpful, and I'll see you in the next video.